So, hello there everyone and welcome, it is Niran here, and today it is time for me to bring you yet another one of these teams to manage videos. Today I'm going to be bringing you 10 Road to Glory style teams that you can be using in your FIFA 18 career modes. It's not long now, guys, until FIFA 18 is out, I'm not going to lie. And some of you guys will be looking for teams to use for your Road to Glories, Return to Glories, etc. And I'm going to be bringing you 10 of those teams today. I've already done 2 videos similar to this before. We're just talking about general career mode teams to use. They'll be fun for various reasons to do with their storylines and backstories. You can check out annotations to those at the top right of the screen throughout the video, and you can also check out links in the description to go and see those. Now, 4 Road to Glory style teams featured across the span of those 2 videos, so I'll give them an honourable mention, although I won't talk about them in detail because I've already mentioned them in previous videos. But Parma from Italy, Lincoln from England, Forest Green from England, and FC Magdeburg of the new German 3rd division in FIFA 18 were all mentioned in those videos, so make sure to check them out as well during the course of a career mode in FIFA 18. If you're going to enjoy the video though, slap a like on it and subscribe if you're new to the channel, and as well as that, my social media links will be popping up in various points across the video. But first of all, we're going to get into these teams, and the first one is Lons. We're going to say Lons. RC, I don't even know. Oh, I think Lons. Now, this is a Return to Glory, because for those that don't know, maybe you were born more recently, I didn't actually know this until very recently, but Lons used to be a very good team in France, like a very good team, before the likes of Lyon came about in the early thousands, and then obviously Paris Saint-Germain more recently. These guys actually won a Ligue 1 title in France in 1998 most recently. They also came second in the 2001-2002 season, I believe. They've had various exploits in the Champions League in the late 90s and early thousands, as well as good UEFA Cup runs in those seasons as well, and then they just slipped off, and in 2007 I think they got relegated, and since then they haven't really been the same team. I think they've been promoted a couple of times since then, but nothing really major. If anyone knows who Wylan Cyprien is, he used to play for them very recently before OGC Nice signed him. He performed very well for them in their Ligue 1 season recently, and then because he played so well whilst at Lons, OGC Nice then picked him up. But yeah, these guys were a very good team back in the day, so Return to Glory this one over in France. It'll be a bit of a challenge, and obviously trying to get them to former glory past the likes of Monaco, Marseille, Paris Saint-Germain, Lyon that have overtaken them in recent years, and get them back to where they were before. And similarly, the second team is exactly the same, but just across the channel. This is Portsmouth, who I love. I'm not gonna lie, I think everybody has a bit of a soft spot for Portsmouth when it comes to English fans, because these guys were just so entertaining as a football club back in the sort of early thousands and mid-thousands. They had a pretty prolonged spell in the top tier of English football in the Premiership. Unfortunately though, a pretty poor owner, pretty poor investor came in, I think it was 2008. The season after, actually, they won the FA Cup in 2007 with Harry Redknapp, and unfortunately ruined the club, to be quite honest with you. Several relegations, huge financial issues. It was even discussed as to whether they go into liquidation and not exist anymore like Wimbledon did back in the day. Thankfully though, Portsmouth did manage to overcome those financial issues, and they're now back up on the rise. They're actually up into League 1 rather than League 2, so they're in the 3rd tier of English football. So not exactly the hardest Road to Glory that you'll do, or Return to Glory that you do, because also Portsmouth have a decent amount of money, ironically now. But it is a nice one to try and get them back, and if you've got a little bit less time than some other people, people might have time to get a League 2 side to the Premiership. You might not be wanting to invest that many hours, but a League 1 side is a little bit easier to get to the Premiership, so I definitely recommend them. Moving on over to Spain now, we've got Real Oviedo, who again, carrying on with the theme of financial troubles, almost went bankrupt in both 2003 and in 2012. They were saved by a businessman from Spain, I think, fans and also ex-players like Santi Cazorla and Michu and Juan Mata, who used to play there as youngsters. They put a bit of money into the club and prevented them from going bankrupt. I think they're still playing in Liga Adelante, or the 2nd division of Spanish football these days. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they got promoted. I don't think think they're playing in the top tier of Spanish football, but again, a good team to try and return to, well, not even return to football glory, because they've always been sort of a slightly smaller side in Spain, but, you know, it's a sort of underdog story, isn't it? A team that almost went bankrupt twice, getting them up into the top tier of Spanish football, and then doing bits with them, and for some reason Spencer FC likes them as well. I don't know what the link is there, but a lot of people always use Real Oviedo because of him too. Next up is Angers, I think is how it's pronounced, from France, and again, return to glory this one. Angers actually won Ligue 1 in 1995. They were the champions over there, so 3 seasons before Lens, who we talked about earlier, 3 seasons before they won it. It was a bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it, the French league back in the 90s? Everyone seemed to win it, but Angers actually, back in the day, had some very good players. Philippe Mexes, Bakary Sagna, Djibril Cissé, and Jean-Alain Boumsong have all played for Angers over the last sort of 20 years. I think Eric Cantona had a spell there as well, probably before he joined Leeds and Manchester United, I imagine. But yeah, a team that's had some very good players, that's had some very good, you know, very good times, very good history, very good, you know, honours, etc. Find themselves down in the second tier of French football, like Lens that we mentioned a moment ago. So it's a bit of a return to glory for them. Got a decent young side as well, actually. Got a couple of good young players with good potential as well, as far as FIFA 17 is concerned. Hopefully that carries on into FIFA 18. There's some very good youngsters over in France, isn't there? The likes of Vincent Thiel and other players that are sort of in that 16 to 18 age bracket that you could potentially get on loan, bring in. There's lots of players you could use for French RTGs, so definitely spoilt for choice in terms of players to use and also in terms of teams to use, seemingly as well. Fifth team in this one is SC Paderborn. Suffered 2 straight relegations recently. They were in the Bundesliga, I think, 4 seasons ago, and yeah, relegated twice in a row. Actually finished 18th as well in the 3rd tier of German football, so they've had a pretty rough couple of seasons, so this one is a bit of an underdog story as well, swimming against the tide at the moment for Paderborn, because they just seem to be going in a bit of a downward spiral. Thankfully they weren't relegated to the 4th tier of German football. They didn't do an 1860 Munich, who have also spiraled down from the 2nd tier of German football down to the 4th tier of German football now, which is going to be weird because they're going to be playing games in the Allianz Arena in the 4th tier of German football, but that's not the point. Paderborn really just stopping the slope really for them, and they are a decent fan favourite, I think, when it comes to German Road to Glories. I've seen quite a few people do series with them on previous FIFAs. I think Kutzi did a Paderborn save in Youth Squad Legends, and I've seen a lot of other people use them as well for Road to Glory, so it's nice to see them back on the game after a downward spiral, and as I said again, they're going to be a good team to use, and there's going to be a lot of hype there because they're playing in a league that is new to the game. Obviously the German 3rd tier is new to FIFA 18, we haven't had it on previous FIFAs, so it's always nice to use teams from a new league. I did mention Magdeburg in the most recent teams to manage video that I did. SC Paderborn are an alternative to them if you're wanting to go down into the German 3rd tier. After that we've got Notts County, who are the oldest professional English team at the moment going. Not the oldest team overall, I think that's Sheffield FC. They're not the oldest football team in the world, but the oldest football team playing professional football team in the world, I think, and they are based literally where I live. Notts County is actually a team that I went and saw as a kid when I was being brought up on football, so they're a pretty personal team to me, but yeah, the oldest English professional football club, and they're in League 2. So, I mean, what better Road to Glory is there to do with the oldest team that you're going to find on the game? And they're going to be one of the most difficult Road to Glories to do because they're in a league where you need to be promoted 3 times just to even get to the top tier in that country. So Notts County, definitely one I would recommend. Next up, we've got a very different task altogether and a very different challenge altogether, and it's Barca B, who are back on FIFA for FIFA 18 because they've been promoted to the Liga Adelante, or it's not Liga Adelante, is it anymore? It used to be called that, but it's the equivalent, the 2nd tier of Spanish football. They've been re-promoted, so you're going to be getting all those lovely Barcelona youngsters again that you couldn't fit into Barca's main team. They're going to be in Barca B, going to have loads to choose from in terms of young players from Spain now on FIFA 18. Interesting challenge maybe to try with these guys is having to accept every single bid that you get from Barcelona's A team. So if you're going to bid for any of your players from Barca's A team, you're going to have to sell them. Or maybe alternatively, you can only sell players to Barca's A team rather than anyone else. That's a challenge maybe you could try. Overall though, you know, maybe it's just ironically trying to make Barca B better than Barcelona's A team would be quite an interesting one, using just youth academy players rather than buying players in, because that obviously wouldn't make much sense if you're buying like Paulo Dybala or something for Barca B rather than Barcelona A. If you're going to make them good, you're probably going to have to just use youth academy players rather than anything else. Third to last team we're going to talk about is Palermo, as we dip into Italy for the first time in this video. Realistically, the reason I like them is because they've always been pretty decent from when I was growing up. They've always been a bit of a staple in Italian football, and seemingly they don't seem to be that way anymore. I think they got relegated recently, got re-promoted, and then they've been relegated again last season, as far as I can remember. They may have only been relegated once, I'm not sure, but they're definitely playing in Serie B for the FIFA 17, the FIFA 17, the 2017-2018 season, so they'll be in Serie B on FIFA 18. They've got a cool kit. They were good when I was young, or when you guys were young, I'm sure, and they should be licensed despite being in Serie B, because obviously they've only just been relegated, so I can't see how they'll lose their licensing from FIFA 17 to FIFA 18 just because they've been relegated. That's not how it usually works with teams. I think Hellas Verona kept their licensing, having been relegated from Serie A to Serie B for FIFA 17, so Palermo should have the same treatment. They shouldn't lose their licensing just because they've been relegated, because obviously they've been licensed on a recent FIFA, so I wouldn't worry about that. They've got a decent side still, got a cool kit, and they've had a lot of players that have actually gone on to do well. Penultimate team, we're going back to France once again. Paris FC are back on FIFA 18. They were promoted from the third tier of French football for this season, so they're making a return. We saw them briefly in FIFA 16, I think for the first time ever, and as per usual, the story with them is bringing them out of the shadows of their bigger brother being Paris Saint-Germain, bigger and richer brother, in fact, being Paris Saint-Germain, and trying to make them the best team in France organically, rather than using cash from Qatar to overhaul the big guns there, and well, in terms of not just PSG but also Monaco, I guess you could argue, as well as all the other French teams, the likes of Lyon and Lille and Marseille and Bordeaux, etc. But mainly PSG and Monaco, because it's a big contrast, isn't it, with Paris FC, who are a very traditional football club, against PSG in the same city, who are completely the opposite of a traditional football club. So it'll be an interesting challenge to try and bring them out of the shadows of PSG. And the final team, this is a pretty interesting one. We've got Wexford FC, or Wexford Youth. They seem to be a bit of a meme, don't they, in terms of the Irish league. On FIFA anyway, I'm sure they're a very good side over in Ireland in real life, but a lot of people are like, hey, Wexford Youth. So I don't know if it's because of the name of the team, or whether it's because of the kit, but I love them, personally. I think everyone has a bit of a soft spot for Wexford Youths, or Wexford FC, or whatever they're called. But the challenge here, taking them out of the Irish league, putting them into the English League and League 2. They'll obviously be the worst team in that league as well, so it's pretty much the most difficult task you could do in terms of a road to glory, and trying to take them to the Barclays Premier League title. Is it possible? Probably not, but it's at least worth a try, and that will be probably the most difficult that I've left till last there, out of all the road to glories that you can try, but it's worth a if you want a challenge, then that is definitely it. It sort of bypasses realism, because obviously an Irish team playing in England doesn't really make much sense, but it'll definitely be a challenge if that's what you're wanting. But that is all 10 of the teams I'm going to be talking about in today's video, done and dusted. There's some great teams in there in terms of having fun. Barca B, Wexford, Portsmouth, but all of the French teams will be great to use, either because they're a return to glory or just because they've got a good storyline. Those especially, actually. It's a shame there isn't a third tier, actually, of French football, because that would make it even better, but all the French teams with a great storyline, all the English teams with a great storyline, all the teams with a great storyline, realistically, so hopefully you'll enjoy using them all. Bit of a longer video today in terms of the teams to manage style vids, but I hope you've enjoyed it nonetheless. If you have, then make sure to slap a like on the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also comment about enjoying the video if you enjoyed it that much, and let me know what Road to Glory teams you're wanting to use going into FIFA 18 career mode. You can follow me on Twitter. My handle is on the screen. It is @theofficialfng, and links to it are in the description below. And you can also follow me on Instagram too. It's the same handle there, @theofficialfng, and links to that are in the description also. But it has been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.
Yo, Massapeals. I roll out with some monsters. Looks like your team and you watchers. I do not roll with imposters. Sound like the man in the Oscars. I'm drunk off Henny and Fosters. I have a career, I am jobless. This bitch f*** me so hard, I might just end up unconscious. I like girls in lingerie, especially if it is crotchless. Bitch, I am the bigger picture. There is no way you can crop it.